Righty-ho. So we have no apologies today, but Councillor Goff is on Zoom. Hey, James, how are you? Declarations of interest. Councillor Goff has declared an interest in item 5. Before hearing our public forum presenters, I'd like to say a few words in recognition of Volunteer Week. I've just said that. So moving right along. Public participation. Right, for a starter, we have the Citizens Advice Bureau. I'd like to welcome Neil Lancaster and Ronnie Davey from the CAB, who will speak about the volunteer services they provide to communities across Christchurch. Welcome to the table. Good to see you again.
We've been introduced to Wharenaki or Aotearoa.
Just
Okay, I will sit. So my name is Ronnie Davey. I'm the chair of CABCHA, which is the Christchurch Area Citizens Advice Bureau, and my colleague Neil. Sorry, I thought you'd introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Neil Lancaster. I've been a member of the Christchurch Citizens Advice Bureau for 12 years. I'm also the national president of our national organisation and chair of the national board.
Okay, so we really do appreciate being here today. Some of you will have used our service. Many of you will know what we do quite well. Even if you haven't used our service, we assume that most of you will be familiar with us because of the recent controversies with Auckland. But we wanted to just share a little bit about what we do. We've sent out some materials that you may or may not have had time to read already in advance, just to give you a bit more background. And we are here today to look towards making closer connections with you and perhaps having some further discussions about how we might work together more fully. Okay, so I'll just find that here. Just a tiny bit about who we are and what we do. Basically, our purpose, as most of you will know, is to actually help individuals understand their rights and their responsibilities as well, and find out what they are entitled to, what they're not entitled to, and what's available to help them and support them when they need that help and support. We're a totally free service. We're a voluntary organisation, as Phil has also acknowledged Volunteer Week. Our clients remain very confidential. Our name is a misnomer, really. We are a universal service. We have clients who come from every part of the community, whether they're migrants, citizens, or whatever. And advice is also a bit of a misnomer because we really are much more concerned to help people help themselves, and we offer options to people. Often at times we do have to give specific help and some advice, but mostly we are trying to open up what they don't know what's available to them. Okay.
The second point there, where we exert a responsible influence in the development of social policies, we do this at a national level, and we have a huge database which we can use in working with government and local government about issues in communities based on the number of people who contact us. So every case that we have is recorded and peer reviewed, and we have it's a very comprehensive database.
Okay. So the kinds of things that we deal with, some of you may not know the incredibly broad range of issues that we have coming to us on a daily basis. Basically, we work on phones, we work by email, we have face-to-face, and we also have online chat. So we are fairly versatile in how we try to help our clients. Over the last year, this is a list of the kind of top inquiry types we've had. Legal and government, just to unpack those a little bit for you. Legal and government would include things like separation, dissolution, family court proceedings, and how to work your way around that kind of thing. Any kind of legal issues, wills, probate, EPAs, custody access, and police matters like fines and traffic, parking, all of those kinds of things as well. crime, legal aid. So there's each of those headings actually has a huge number of different kinds of things underneath it. Where we are unable to give legal advice because we are not lawyers, we put people onto the organisations and things where they can get that expert advice that they do need.
The fourth one's an interesting one, housing and land, because we frequently have calls about the neighbours' trees, about fences, about driveways, and we say, how did you find out about us? And they say, we've been referred by the City Council. So we pick up a lot of that advice where things aren't working in communities and support people there. And I was going to say the number 6 is a increasingly common area where we're looking at employment issues, and it's amazing how many people find themselves in jobs with no employment agreements. We're able to assist people in their employment disputes where they often feel really powerless, and so enable them to resolve their issues.
Each month or so, obviously, the hierarchy of what's important sort of changes. For example, the last month, we've had huge numbers of cases around, in our particular CabChar Bureau, around relationships and legal issues and employment have been the top 3. So things do change. But over the last year or so, we've had almost 8,000 clients that we have dealt with in terms of interviews. Each would have an average of about 17 minutes, but sometimes it will take an hour and a half with a client, particularly if we are helping write letters for them and that kind of thing as well. Sometimes as short as 2 or 3 if they want to know how to boil an egg. But I think what we have found over the last few years is our cases get more and more complex and multi-layered. People who are digitally excluded are amongst a lot of our clients, especially from government services or people who struggle with literacy. So we are largely dealing with people who have vulnerabilities and who do need a lot of support. We also run clinics. We have a large number of clinics, immigration, legal, CV, and so forth. And over the last year, we've had at least almost 5,000 clinic clients. So that's a lot of people that we are seeing and supporting.
Ronnie, how much longer have you got, mate?
Sorry?
How much more time do you think you'll need?
A couple of minutes.
Okay, because it is only 5 minutes, but if you can just carry on. You're doing a good job.
No. There is an assumption that, certainly it's been promulgated, I guess, by the media over time, and some of you will have read the article that we sent around. But ironically, 35% of our clients are under 40. So we have an increasing number of young people coming and using our services, and we have been doing quite a lot of work at the university in training up some of the Year 3 law students as well to try. Okay, so just a little bit of background. This is why we're here, really.
Yep, we run on the smell of an oily rag. When you look at the funding that we get in Christchurch, and we're not talking dollars, which we're looking for at the moment, but comparatively, those figures at the bottom there, I think speak for themselves. And what we would really like that as an outcome from this is for us to be able to sit down with a group of representatives from the City Council to look at ways that we can work more effectively, collaboratively in Christchurch. Our funding at the moment means that there's whole areas that we can't work with, and we need to be able to address that. So I think our parting message really is thank you for listening to us, but we would like to continue the conversation in a different forum so that we can work better together in our community.
Okay.
So thank you.
Right, thank you. Sam is really wanting to ask.
Thank you. I'll make it really quick because I know we're under a bit of pressure. Just in terms of the funding, does that include I know at Fendleton Library, for example, we've got space there which we rent to you at a relatively discounted rate. Does that sort of reflect that funding as well? Or
The funding that is there is the funding that we get from, we pay rent there, certainly.
yeah, so it doesn't reflect the in-kind. I'm just trying to understand.
But we don't pay, for example, we pay for our space that we use to work from.
Yes. Yeah.
Some of the rooms we use for meetings and things like that, and board meetings, they are free to the community.
Yeah.
So we...
No, that's great. Yeah. Cool, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Keep up with the work.
And thank you for enlightening us on your very important work and your presentation. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next we have, well done, next we have Glenda Martin from the Volunteering Canterbury, who will share some of the great things volunteers have contributed in recognition of National Volunteer Week.
Kia ora. It's a pleasure to be here. Each time at this time of year, and the Mayor's actually done most of my presentation for me this morning, thank you, we celebrate National Volunteer Week across the country, highlighting and celebrating the contribution of volunteers. Why do we do it? 50% of Kiwis volunteer, and within the community sector, 90% of those organisations, community organisations, are entirely volunteer run. The statistics speak for themselves. That's why we recognise volunteers. 2023 has already seen extraordinary voluntary contribution as parts of Aotearoa have grappled with unprecedented run of weather events. So our usual week of recognition has been extended out this year with a big shout out month. Social media campaign running from the top of the North Island right through to Bluff, celebrating volunteering and encouraging people, organisations and individuals to shout out to volunteers. And there's been some great stories shared around the country. For Volunteering Canterbury, I'm just going to see if I can change the slides. Yep. Our main event was on Monday, held here at the Civic Offices, and grateful acknowledgement of the Mayor's presence at that event. 38 recipients received awards for an outstanding voluntary contribution. 11 groups and 27 individuals were amongst those who attended. And their volunteering was from a diversity of roles across every sector. Meals on Wheels and Waves in Littleton, supporting a local art gallery in Oxford, maintaining Coast Guard vessels in Sumner, checking ambulances ready to roll in Akaroa, calling bingo for older people attending a day program in North Canterbury, coaching basketball in Rolleston, supporting the native support keepers at Willowbank, creating beautiful floral creations for the enjoyment of patients and whānau at the Bone Marrow Trust's Ranui House facility, and taking part in regular shifts on various helplines. Those are some of the roles that we heard about on Monday. It's also good to highlight the benefits of volunteers themselves. And volunteering certainly ticks off all the 5 boxes of well-being. And I'm not able to move my screen, sorry.
Yep. You're right, you're doing good.
There we go.
Don't panic.
Supporting volunteering is essential, and to do that, it's important to understand the barriers. And over 45% of people recently identified a lack of time as their reason not to volunteer. Since we can't add hours to days, we need to find solutions. Family volunteer days are one solution that Volunteering Canterbury has come up with, where the whole whānau can get out together, have a bit of fun, and actually make a difference at the same time. Volunteering Canterbury's group volunteering program is another tool in our toolkit. Through this program, which is predominantly utilised by business groups, employers support their teams to make a difference in their communities within the working week. And they're annually gifting about 3,000 hours to our community through that program. So that's on top of the regular volunteering that's happening through Volunteering Canterbury's membership. The contribution in a dollar value to the region is about 11.9 million. That's a government statistic based on minimum wage. Perhaps the most relevant figure, though, is the number of people who are receiving benefits from the volunteering. from that gifting of time of the volunteers, and that figure is 303,000. So 303,000 Cantabrians each year are impacted by volunteering. Volunteering Canterbury's approximately 300 member organisations alone contributes nearly 600,000 hours to the community. This volunteering is what we label formal volunteering, but we know that there's much more volunteering going on which simply doesn't get counted. So those 600,000 hours are, I believe, very likely the tip of the iceberg of mahi aroha taking place across our community. New Zealand's a nation of volunteers. More than 50% of Kiwis volunteer. Over 1 million people are involved in volunteering in the sports sector. And that's why it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to be here today to shout out to volunteers across our region, the unsung heroes, and take the time to shine a light on volunteers and the difference they make. So today, I'm here to give a particularly big shout out to the City Council's volunteers. They're listed up there, the main ones. And also to thank the Christchurch City Council for its continuing support since our inception in 1988 to do what we do here in the city. And alert you to the fact that we are all getting trained up on emergency management. We recognise that with the climate events that are happening, there's a real need for us to take a more active part in helping with the management of volunteers, all those people who turn up to help, and sometimes it's just not the right time. And so to work alongside the council a little bit more closely in emergency management going into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenda, and thank you once again. I went down to the awards with you, and that was a pleasure to be at. And the city could not operate without volunteers. So thank you once again for all you do.
I think knackered was the word that you used the other day.
Yeah, thereabouts. Yes. Thank you. Right, next we have Drusilla Kingi-Patterson, who is going to talk to us about Torah Rail and Templeton Hall. Good morning.
Kia ora. I won't be long.
No, you're right.
Where do I sit? Here?
Yeah, wherever you like, mate.
Kia ora. First I've got to say, really excited about the Edmonds Band Rotunda. I actually went there with a boyfriend when it was a restaurant, and I really, really missed it, and I worked on it. And I just love it, and I go past it in the bus and I see when the lights are on. It's just so awesome to have it back.
Absolutely.
And the volunteering, I've done volunteering over 40 years plus. Now I've just been roped in to help my brother with kapahaka. So it doesn't stop. Okay, now, with rail, I just wanted to bring you up to speed. I've got business cards here to be given out. We've actually got a legal name now. I'm still working on the constitution, you can have those. And I'd like to speak about the kaupapa. Our kaupapa is to promote a low emission rail system for Canterbury, Aotearoa, New Zealand, while also promoting historic rail and transport services to support better water infrastructure projects. On Friday, I've actually got a meeting at the the old post office in the centre of town, and I'm looking to go into there regularly once a month to run meetings. I've also put an ad in North Canterbury, and we're looking at probably the Rangiora railway station. I know that a lot of this may not happen in my time, but we've actually been working on this kind of up and down since 2006. I've lost members, so we're starting up again. And so what it is we will be a support group when rail comes to Canterbury and how it's going to work, because I know there's other players and it's going to take a lot of time. And I work in construction, and I'm more concerned about if they roll out Lake Onslow and build a dam, how you're going to get your workers and I feel that rail would actually open up the markets. I'm actually talking to a graphic company who we're going to roll out within the next 2 to 3 years a map, and it'll be starting from Stewart Island going right through up to the North Island, and then we will highlight areas where there's vintage rail. So it's not all about fast rail as well, and I'm going to bring in some key players. Today is really not the time to go on about all the stuff that I've got to do, but this is just to let you know that that's what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And I'm working on the Constitution, and I'm just about there, but it's just really money, and I've got to work around work.
Yeah, yep.
Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is actually the old Templeton station, Templeton. My husband worked at the prison across the road for 14 years. His ex-wife used to work at the prison at Templeton. There's a lot of people. I did have I met Jordan Majors 2-3 years ago. We spoke on it. We had a 5-minute meeting. I do not know Mr. Majors personally, okay, even though I did a 20-page report on it and it went to Parliament. I feel that that area would be great for a film museum because you're going to have the animation at Canterbury University. I've actually got 4 film projects. I'm going in the Arts Centre 226. There's no funding. 2 of them could be animation. So there's got all that's happening. And if I get into the grand, we may end up doing filming in there. I've got the permission to do the old bank in Kaipoi. It just comes down to money and logistics and everything else and trying to work around work. All right? So, but I would like a 15, 10 or a half an hour appointment to talk to you about what's going to happen, what you want for the Templeton side. I did actually meet your father once, and I would like to, because I've actually got a strategy for my filming for the whole of Canterbury, and I've been working on it 20 years. In the Templeton, I even went and had meetings at the RSA with a lot of the community there, and they're isolated, and I feel that something like that would actually be really good for the community over there. Okay, so that's what I would like, if I can, have an appointment with you, Mr. Majors, to actually discuss the Templeton side. And if it's not viable, it's not viable.
No, I'm more than happy to sit down with you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good on you.
Thank you,
Thank you for coming in. Okie dokie. So we now have Dr. Cheryl Doig, please. Welcome.
Ngā mihi nui kia koutou, ko Cheryl Doig taka ingoa. My name's Cheryl Doig. I'm from Think Beyond and also Ako Otatahi, Learning City Christchurch. Apologies from Jessica Halliday, the director of Te Putahi Centre for Architecture and City Making, who was going to be here but she's still cycling in. But also acknowledging Claire Piper from the council who's here as support. You may be aware that Sophie Howe is visiting Otautahi to speak at the LGNZ conference towards the end of July. And Sophie has just completed 7 years as the first generations, future generations commissioner for Wales. So it's really exciting that she's coming to New Zealand and that she'll be in our city. So I've snaffled her for the 2 days before the conference because I think her messages are really important for us to be sharing, and that's what I want to share a little bit about. So Think Beyond is hosting her from the 25th and 26th of July, the 2 days before the LGNZ conference, which is at Te Pai. So just a little bit of a snapshot about what she'll be doing in the city, and it is a sort of a pretty tight schedule for her. She'll be spending some time with Ako Otatahi, Learning City Christchurch trustees and close associates, talking with Te Mana Ora, the health and all wellbeing team across the country, and also you'll see on the right-hand side of the slide that she will be hosting a Creating Intergenerational Wellbeing talk or Christchurch conversation at the Oxford Baptist Church on the Tuesday evening, and those events are sponsored by Christchurch City Council Sustainability Fund. So I'm sure Jessica would be thanking you for that sponsorship. But that's an open event for anyone in the city to come to free, and I think that's a really important thing for us to be able to share. It's also live streamed, so there are already people from across the country and internationally that are booked in to come to the live stream. The host for the session, the MC, will be Joseph Tualamalai, and it promises to be a really good evening. Hope that you will be able to join us. And on the second day, Sophie will spend some time with Tokona Te Raki and Eru Tarena and the team at Tokona Te Raki. In the afternoon, she'll support a Youth Futures workshop, and that's what I want to spend the rest of my time just bringing to your attention. So the Youth Futures workshop, Impacting Change in Your Future, is being hosted by Think Beyond, Grow Waitaha and the University of Canterbury. From 1 till 4 on the afternoon of the 26th of July, which I think is a day that Council is sitting. It will bring rangatahi from secondary and from the university together to consider youth futures impacting change in your future. You'll see on the slide that Sophie will be sharing examples of what has worked and not worked in the youth space in Wales, and rangatahi will have time to explore ideas in mixed groups with up to 4 students from each secondary school and a selected group of from UC programs. And from 3 o'clock till 4 o'clock, they'll present back to each other and to an invited group of adult allies to support these ongoing conversations. Within half an hour of the invitation going out to schools, one of the teachers emailed back, "This looks wonderful, our school will be there with bells on, thanks for organising." As a result of the workshop, we would like to engage with Council and Greater Christchurch around key actions and opportunities. At a time when our young people are overwhelmed and for some the future can look grim, we want to act as allies to discuss positive futures with a focus on growing trust, agency and hope. And we hope to use futures thinking approaches to explore new opportunities. So the ask from you is to attend the city conversation if you can, but certainly to amplify it to others that you think might be interested in coming. To spread the word about the youth feedback session. If you know of any adult allies that would be good for us to personally invite to that last hour, please let me know. Engage with us in the Youth Futures after the event. So there's an ongoing conversation that we've already been talking about with Greater Christchurch as well. Ask different questions, be curious and lead the way. And the big ask, I guess, is to engage in intergenerational wellbeing as a way of thinking rather than just a youth portfolio. There's so many opportunities, so just open for any questions.
Thank you very much. You've unfortunately used up all your time, but thank you very much for bringing it to our attention.
Thank
That's
you.
very much appreciated. Thank you. Okie dokie. So now we have Kevin, who will speak about the need for safer pedestrian crossing Copper Ridge across Horsell Junction Road. I was actually out there the other day with Andre.
Morning.
Morning, mate.
You were there yesterday, I believe it was, to have a look at the crossings at Horsell Junction Road. I'm here speaking on behalf of my daughter, who was hit by a car doing 70 in Horsell Junction Road. The fact that the car hit her at 70, the driver reversed, came back, police attended and everything else. The problem we have at Copper Ridge is Copper Ridge is a new subdivision on the east side of Longhurst and Knightstring. We have the school in Knightstring. The speed limit from Horsell Junction Road all the way down is 50, or supposedly 50. Now, we built, because I'm part of the construction industry, we built the skateboarding park and the rugby fields, which we didn't build them for adults, we built them for children. but the children can't cross the road because of the speed of the cars going through. They also have to go to school. So my question is, when we gave consent to build Longhurst, Knightstream and Copper Ridge, did anyone not see the future of the speed limits, crossings, how to reduce the accidents? See, my daughter was lucky, but who's going to put their hand up and say when a child dies, oh, we could have fixed that 3 years ago? There isn't going to be a person who's going to do it. The reason I'm here as well is because Kiangiora is going to build state housing, which is also going to bring more to Horswell Junction Road because they're actually using the same exit and entrance as Copper Ridge. So the problem we have is, one, the speed limit. We're giving consent for a number of housing and not looking at the infrastructure and how the infrastructure impacts as we keep throwing Lego bricks into the equation. Now, my daughter was 7 at the time. She's now 10. And the road is exactly the same. The speed is exactly the same. There are parents that drop their kids to school between the hours of, well, the school doesn't actually open, or the children are not allowed in until 8:10. So you have, on average, say 30 children around the vicinity, around the football field. A ball runs into Horswell Junction Road. A child doesn't have the mindset to stop and look. They're going to run to get their ball. A car doing 70 has no chance in hell in stopping in enough time. So you have a dead child on your hands. So the time frame that we take to fix something needs to be addressed, because email I sent on the 30th of August 2022 was replied to me on the 16th of September. And all I am is a number. That's all we are, a number. Until someone dies. Is that what we're waiting for? How long is it going to take? And the only reason I'm here is because of Kiangihora's state housing being built in Copper Ridge, plus the fact that I needed to bring this up. My time's up.
No, thank you, but Andre has got a question, because he and I both went there the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, particularly for staff. So thank you very much, Kim, for taking the time to come in. Are we able to get some advice on what can be done around here? Just that the important point here is that we've got the speed surveys around there, and the speed that Kevin's daughter was hit at is not particularly a unique speed. It's actually a very common speed to be driving through them. We've got the speed surveys which actually tell us that about 15 in every 100 cars is doing around that speed where Kevin's daughter was hit. All that's in the pipeline is changing the speed limit around school times, but that's not going to help anyone get across the road outside of school time or even to their local park on a weekend. So it'd be good to get some advice on what can be done about the infrastructure itself. And also just worthwhile noting that the Knightstream school students came to speak to our community board about this issue a few months ago as well. So any advice would be much appreciated.
We've also
Absolutely.
forgotten the rugby matches that are played there on the weekends.
Yeah.
So we built the infrastructure for the community to enjoy, but you can't. So what was the point?
So I will seek staff advice on what to do. I've got Andre and I looked at where there's a little build out on the park side and a refuge in the middle, but there's no build out on your side to make the road a bit safer.
Correct.
as well as the speed. So thank you for your presentation, and we'll look into it.
If at any point in time you come down, look me up. I've been in construction for the last 45 years, so I know what I'm talking about.
Good man. Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for your time.
Okey-doke. So now we move on to deputations by appointment. Christchurch International Airport. Is Christine here, please?
Tēnā koutou. So my name is Jesse Amer and I'm a planner representing Christchurch International Airport, and I helped with the preparation of the airport submission on the Autokaikino Stormwater Management Plan.
Atamarie, my name is Nancy Vance, and my colleague Christine unfortunately couldn't be here today, but she and I helped prepare the submission as well, and myself in particular the guideline in Appendix G for basin design.
Thank you.
So the airport would firstly like to thank the Christchurch City Council and Paul Dixon specifically for recognising that bird strike is an issue in this catchment, and appreciates the collaborative approach undertaken to integrate the issue and the bird strike management guidelines into the stormwater management plan. So bird strike is when a bird or flocks of birds collides with an aircraft and is a key threat to the safe operation of Christchurch International Airport. It can cause damage to aircraft, which compromises safety and in many instances can force an emergency landing. It is a particular concern in the Autokaikino catchment, which lies immediately to the north of the Christchurch Airport runway.
It does.
So bird strike risk resulting from bird attracting land uses, such as stormwater basins, is made of three main elements. The first being shared airspace between birds and planes, and this can take place up to 13 kilometres away from the airport. The second is the bird species, and in particular their size and their behaviour. And based on those two elements, identification of where there is a potential collision with aircraft. So given Autokaikino's location directly within flight paths and its close distance to the airport, planes and birds will share airspace. Therefore, it is critical for the airport's safety and function that bird strike risk within the Autokaikino catchment is appropriately managed. Now, the airport cannot manage bird strike risk on its own. The key outcome that the airport seeks through this process is collaboration with partners, including the council and developers who want or need to construct stormwater basins to ensure that they are designed to mitigate bird strike risk. There are several factors that can be incorporated into stormwater basin design to mitigate this risk, and the airport has experts who can work with partners to achieve this outcome. Just to be clear, the airport doesn't oppose the development of stormwater basins within this catchment. It just wants to ensure that these basins are designed appropriately to mitigate bird strike risk. So to kickstart these conversations, the airport considers that the plan needs to, firstly, recognise the significance of bird strike risk in the catchment, and secondly, to clearly communicate bird strike risk and how it should be managed to users. So through the airport's collaboration with the council, the plan contains provisions relating to and guidelines on designing stormwater basins in a way that mitigates bird strike risk. This is a great outcome. Additionally, as set out in our submission, the airport would like to see the mitigation of bird strike risk elevated into the objectives and policies at the front end of the document to recognise its significance, to draw it to the user's attention, and also just to provide context to the more detailed references to bird strike risk further in the document. These changes will ensure that conversations about bird strike risk can take place at the appropriate time and ensure managing this risk is as straightforward as possible for the developers of stormwater basins within the catchment. Overall, the airport considers the plan as a product of hard work by the council, particularly Paul Dixon, and the airport, and is a milestone in the ongoing relationship between the airport and council on bird strike risk. The airport looks forward to continuing to work collaboratively with the council to reduce bird strike risk. Thank you all for your time and for the opportunity to speak to our submission. Nancy and I would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Pauline?
Yeah, thank you. I'm interested in what design features can be used to minimise the risk of bird strike. and also would any mitigation add considerable cost to building a basin? Do you know?
It's a good question. Risks differ, so it's not necessarily the geographic location of the basin in proximity to the airport. There are variables such as standing water, the gradient of the banks of the stop bank, and the particular vegetation used. We look to decrease diversity of plants in these stormwater basins, reduce plants with berries, seeds, nuts, fruit, habitat, ones that provide habitat for birds. And even soil improvements can attract invertebrates that specific birds like to eat. So there are design guidelines around that. We've got an indicative cross-section in the appendix and a list of plant species that the airport encourages use of in this instance.
Right, that's really interesting. And have council staff, are they open to your requirements?
Yes, yeah,
Great.
no, it's been a really great process, and yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
And we just encourage people to, when they're designing the basin, to come and talk to us, because as I say, we've got the people who can help with the specifics, because each basin is different.
Bird strike is mentioned in different places in the district plan, and this appendix kind of brings it together in one place, which is great. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm sure our guys will talk to you guys, your guys.
Continue talking.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks so much.
Okay, next we have deputations related to the organics processing plant, item 5 on the agenda. And I'd start by welcoming Burwood-Glenwood Coastal Community Board Deputy Chair Jackie to the stage, please.
Good morning, everyone. Just given there's limited time, this is more in bullet form than storytelling this morning, so I'll bow right on into it. I've read and understand the report, including all the limitations.
Sorry, before you start, I am more, because this is a very sensitive and passionate issue, I'm more than happy to give people a bit more time on this. So
I'll speak slower then, thanks.
No, and here we are starting the clock, and if you run over, it's because this is very important to us and all of us. So please start again.
Thank you. I will start again. I have read and I understand the report, including all the limitations and restrictions that prevent an immediate closure of the organics processing plant. But I would like to remind everyone here that the organics processing plant has never been fit for purpose, it has never been compliant, and I doubt that it ever will be. This situation has been forced on the people of Bromley by the Christchurch City Council and Environment Canterbury, and they have never had a choice in this. They have been treated appallingly by the governing bodies involved. This report about mitigation should have been commissioned a year ago at the time that it was decided the plant should close. It was remiss of the Christchurch City Council not to do that. You dropped the ball and you've cost the people of Bromley another year of living with this odour. I understand that consultation is a requirement, but whilst necessary, it will only serve to add further delays to the closure of this plant. This too should have been initiated a year ago and would have been completed by now. The problems with this consultation is that it is highly unlikely that people who have not lived in this stench will be agreeable to a rates increase for the disposal of what is in fact their own green waste. To that end, I would like to remind you of the Local Government Act 2002, Section 78(1). A local authority must, in the course of its decision-making process in relation to a matter, give consideration to the views and preferences of persons likely to be affected by or have an interest in the matter. The people of Bromley have a stronger interest and are indisputably impacted more severely than anyone else. To that end, it is not okay for the majority to impose their will on a minority that has well and truly been affected by the organics processing plant. I refer now to item 7.6 in the report on your agenda, where it states that this item is a significant decision due to costs, policies, levels of service, and environmental considerations. Nowhere does it state that this item is a significant decision because of the impact of the lives of the people of Bromley that you see here today. These people are not dollar figures on a piece of paper. They are people whose lives and well-being have been impacted by poor decision-making by the Christchurch City Council over 14 years. Yet their lived experience, their stress and angst and trauma does not appear to be noted as a significant factor in the decision process. And that is wrong. Their experience of living with the stench should be the most important, significant factor. It's also noted that resource consent would be needed for additional trucks to go to Cape Valley. Cape Valley has already consent to receive the waste, so that means it's a fairly simple matter of getting consent from Huranui District Council for extra truck movements. This should have been sought already. You've been aware that this resource consent would be most likely needed for some time. Waiting for the outcome of the consultation will just add additional delays. If application for that resource consent hasn't been started, it should be started today. There's no excuse for waiting on that. In spite of all the legal and legislative limitations placed on you right now, I know that individually and collectively, for the most part, you accept that Bromley residents have been treated appallingly and that they deserve better. It's time for the Christchurch City Council to step up. It's time for you to start working proactively, not reactively, on this issue. It is time for you to do the right thing by the people of Bromley. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, you have got time for one question if anyone wants one. No, that's good. I'm sure others may use a wee bit more time.
That's great.
So,
I'm happy to hand it
and they're
on
more
to
than
them.
welcome to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, righto, next up we have Bruce King, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
I think this is my fourth or fifth presentation to this council to do with the OPP, or as I call it, the odour producing plant, which it's been doing since its opening approximately 14 years ago. The CCC owns the consent, which is CRC 080301.1, to operate the plant. The plant operator and builder has been allowed to continually break the consent, which is living earth. And the consent states in clause 27, the discharge to the air shall not cause odour or dust which is offensive or objectionable beyond the boundary of the site in which the consent is exercised. This consent is broken daily, whether we live in the predominant wind, which is the northeast, or over in Mount Pleasant, etc. One side of the city is accepting or receiving the dust and the stink. ECAN in 2021 found the main source of offensive and objectionable odour in the Bromley area is the OPP. This City Council has objected to that and spent thousands of dollars trying to prove the ECAN wrong. The City Council was given a period of time to get the OPP operating within the consent conditions. The day this period of time expired, the CCC was issued with an abatement notice. During the period when the CCC was given time to get the OPP operating consent conditions, it's spent considerable amounts of ratepayer money trying to prove the OPP wasn't the source of the offensive odour. More ratepayers' money wasted. If the CCC had just spent this money on relocating the OPP, it could have saved millions of dollars and relieved the ratepayers living in the wind shadow of the OPP years of anguish and health problems caused by the nuisance smell, dust carried bioaerosols, black mould dust, and various wind-carried spores from composting materials, including Legionnaire's disease. The main effect on people is the continuation for 14 years for those who have been living there the whole time, which I have, the mental effects the offensive odours have caused. As for the 3 to 5 years to fix the problem, as stated at the last community liaison group meeting, I think that's a joke. Seeing we were promised a year ago it would be closed and shifted. 1 year ago, just over 1 year ago, it was 14 months in this very room, that was stated. But it was put out for tender, and the council allocated 20 million to rectify the problem. The tenders came back at approximately twice double that figure. So much for the City Council's department being able to research what the things are going to cost to fix. I think that's shows a totally inactive or inadequately trained and educated on how to find the price of things. It's time to close the operation now, not in the 3 to 5 years, and save the ratepayers more consultation fees. Oh, sorry, I've got a bit wrong there. It should be closed right now and stop the mental anguish before the spring-summer season starts, because it's going to be another stinker, as we have had most of the winter, or so-called autumn and winter starting now. It's been stinking very, very frequently. One of the original tenders stated in the document the plant shouldn't have been built there in the first place. And you can prove that by looking up the documents that the council has got. And it was stated because of where it is and the wind would cause the problems to the people living by. And one interesting point that Jackie just raised, consent is not approved for the trucking of any waste to Cape Valley. The consent was issued for it being trained on train carriages to just south of Whiteborough, north of Ambley. That's the original consent. So there is no consent for any trucking of waste or green material to Cape Valley. So it's been operating illegally all that time, and it was only done because the railway advised the council it would be cheaper to use trucks, because the railway didn't want to fix up a siding where it should have been fixed to allow this facility to be built and carry out the shifting from the city council, from the city to the siding up north of Ambley there, and then on truck from there to Cape Valley. And you will all know that because that document was delivered to you prior to the meeting 1 and a bit years ago, and you've all got it because I've seen a copy of the letter. And the other point is that people were objecting last time about losing their special green thing that comes from the government. I know that has now been told that as long as you are building a new plant, that green subsidy will still come to the City Council. So that objection, which we had dancing chairs here a year and a bit ago, 13 people from the wastewater and management presented arguments that it shouldn't close. What a joke. And when you had a head of the department go to meetings and say to people that in that meeting, I don't care what the people of Bromley think, it's staying where it is. And that is pretty much word to word from what people have told me she said to people who work in this council. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce. Right. Vicky, please.
Familiar face. Don't really want to be back here, but here I am again. Thank you for hearing me. Nice to see you. Rinse and repeat. Apologies from Andrew Walker. He is working as I should also be working today. The immediate closure of the OPP plant to me means regained health. Here I am emotional again. Sorry about that, but this is me, talking about me, how it affects me. I've been the most unwell this year as I've ever been in my whole entire life. Pneumonia in January, lung infection in May, now asthma and shingles. I can't live the way I want to on my property and in my community. The plant pollutes my air daily. I can't use my HRV or open the windows to ventilate my home. I can't go out for my daily routine walks. I can't hang my washing outside. I can't go out in the garden to tend or enjoy it. I can't sit on my porch in the sun. My grandchildren can't walk to school. They can't play outside or in their local park. I feel trapped and a prisoner in my own home, held captive to a foul odour. It does weigh heavily on my health, my life and my enjoyment of life. I live in a residential zoned area. You zoned it residential. Living Earth is a privately owned contractor. It is making money at the expense of our clean air. Its contract is expiring in January 24, and I have zero confidence in them. They have tried, as has their predecessor, to minimise and stop the smell and dust they produce. The liaison group has met with you for years and years of our lives, meeting with you and being given lip service. You all know the plant isn't coping with the amount coming to it. You give us graphs and timelines, but it still stinks and pollutes our everyday lives. Living Earth has breached its consents 12 times in January alone this year. They are not complying on the current site despite numerous attempts. The consent states smell and dust must not leave its boundaries. The council should just stop wasting money fighting ECAN and accept ECAN's findings and close the plant immediately. I'm afraid that if this is delayed, that the rates will go up further for the new stadium and the new council won't be able to afford to move the new plant. They could reverse the closure. I want a time frame you have to adhere to. I refer to Agenda 1.1, Nature of Decision. In May 22, you said closure will be, quote, 3 to 5 years, and now a year later, 4 to 6. We need transparency. You say you need more consultation. I feel we've had enough. However, you have the power. If you must consult, make it 2 weeks consultation like it was for the extra 150 million you needed for the new stadium. Oh yes, another recommendation, reducing the transport emissions. I see it's pretty straightforward. Stop bringing it in from Sticks Mill and Waymack until the plant is moved. I really want your decision today to be close it immediately. I want engagement and commitment to be a good neighbour. So our health and lives and enjoyment is not being put on the too hard pile. Fresh air shouldn't be a privilege for those privileged. Just make consents, and I know you can fast track them too. Just do it.
Thank you. Well done. Well done, you. Has anyone got any questions? No. Thank you very much for coming in, Vicky. Okie doke. So next we've got Kathy, please.
Hi, my name is, I don't need a microphone, I have a very loud voice and I like to be heard. My name is Kathy Baker. I've been a resident of Bromley community for 20 years and I'm a teacher at the local Bromley school. Enough is enough. We as a community have not been listened to over our constant complaints. We're treated like second-class citizens because we live in Bromley. Doesn't matter. We all pay our rates, I say, and I expect the same consideration that every other ratepayer in the city gets. We do not get that. Why should I even bother paying my rates, I asked you? Let's stop all the talk, the consultations, the meetings. It's going to cost $41 million, I hear, to close the plant. Give me a truck and a digger, I'll do it for $20 million. Quote from the last council article, the well-being of the Bromley community is very important to the council and we are constantly reviewing the operations on site and we will continue to make necessary changes as required to ensure the odour is not offensive and objectionable. Lynette Ellis. Obviously this hasn't happened, surprise, surprise. What a joke. We spent money sending scouts out into the community for 10 minutes to walk around and smell the smell. 10 minutes. Is that all we're worth? The scouts came back with a report. They couldn't smell the smell. Surprise, surprise. Our health has been hugely impacted at Bromley School. Our numbers of absentees is huge. Kids with sore tummies, chest infections, coughs, asthma. I, being a fit, healthy person, a New Zealand representative, has now got an inhaler. For goodness sake, why would I need that? Some days we cannot let our children play outside. We don't know what is happening inside their lungs. We need to provide a much cleaner health for our children. Flies in our classrooms. We are riddled with flies. We have parents who won't open their houses. We have children who can't walk to school. While we're on a health hazard, I want to bring up the car crushing plant, which is another area we'll talk about another day. My question to you all is, what will you do immediately to help the Bromley residents? I have two children who now would like to read to you. Speak into here. Big voice.
Mr. Major, my name is Phoenix and this is Cara. I am 8 years old and Cara is 9 years old. We go to Bromley School. We are not very pleased with the smell from the poo pumps and compost. It has been getting out of hand.
We can smell it at school and at home. It smells like rotten cheese and fish. Can you please tell them to fix it right away? A lot of people cannot open their windows and people cannot go outside. Thank you from Phoenix and Cara.
And now we'll now hear from Irie. Big loud voice, sorry.
Dear Mayor, I am a student from Bromley and sick of playing in the smell because we don't like to play in it. Some of my classmates have asthma and it's horrible for our health. It's not just at school, it's near our home where there are newborn babies and sick families. Sometimes we miss learning and have fun trips because of the smell. We want the smell to go away. Thank you for allowing us to speak.
Mr. Mayor, I have letters from the children that you can read tonight in bed. It will make interesting reading.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Any questions, anybody? I think bringing the children in was very wise. It's very good to hear it from their mouths.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, mate. Good on you. Now we have Katrina Visser, please. So just so I'm on the right track, Vicky, Katrina's your
Katinka's my neighbour.
neighbour. So what you smell, she smells. So it's
Well, yeah.
Not necessarily, because we have apertures or whatever you want to call doors and windows and that in different places. Right, I'm here to tell you that you must make the right decision and close the OPB plant today. Be the good neighbour, as it says in your literature, and lead by example. The foul stink that this plant emits isn't allowed, but somehow this plant gets away with it. Living Earth is not complying with its consents. That stink is not allowed to leave its own area. Do I have to spell it out to you? Where I live is not its area. I don't care if you have too much of the wrong stuff or if part of the plant is broken. If the plant can't cope, it should cease to exist. Or it seems as if it can't be fixed, let's face it. How many years have they been trying? 15? And it's not getting any better. It's worse, way worse since the end of last year. This is so not right. Listen to the people living in its wind shadows. What or who gives this plant the right to pollute my air? And get this, I'm even being made to pay a whole lot more for it in this year's rates. What's right about that? No one wants to come and visit a moody, scratchy, one-track-minded person's place. with every likelihood of having to breathe that expensive foul air. Would you come and visit? No, I don't think so. I've actually lived in the area since the early 80s. Before I moved to where I am now, I lived in Hay Street, so I've been around a long time. I even took part in the monitoring odours way back then, so I knew what I was doing when I moved, choosing to stay in the area. The odour, as you keep calling it, has gotten worse. I'm told I can complain or moan about it on Smelt It, their Snap, Send and Solve It. Or I can phone the council customer service line. Oh, and there's ECAN too. I'm so over these methods. E can't or E won't. The enforcement period's taken age anyway. It's like 58 days. If you phone the council, you can't even get through half the time. Who has the time to wait for that? There are people working in positions that I would never wish to be in, but they are in them. Someone is and should have done more by now. Well, now it's just too late. Enough is enough. Do the right thing and close that damn stinking plant right now. And if the council can't find anywhere else for it to go, that just proves to me it can't be here either.
Do you want to read that?
No, I sent that to Yanni, so everyone's read that, haven't they?
Yeah, it's been circulated. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, so, yeah, we've got that. Yep.
Are there any questions? I'm sure I've taken up my time.
No. You got questions, right?
No, I'm sure everyone is very aware of what you just stated, and for everyone as well.
I hope so, because I'll tell you what, it's bloody awful having to live in that crap. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you for making the time. Okay, Jeffrey King, please.
All right, I'd just like to bring some facts to the noggin. 14 months ago, some people round this table, and don't put your heads down, voted to keep this plant open. You haven't read any of the documentation. In 2007, the Becker Consultancy report mentioned odour problems with these types of industries. Nobody in this building had any clues at all to the facts of what these sites, composting sites, do to people. Clause 3.18. Does the biofilter have a roof? Well, it doesn't. We don't have a biofilter. It's just a tray of bark. It's useless. It's 100-year-old technology. And you've paid, what, $40 million already, and you're going to pay another 40-odd million. Phelan Barrett, a respected ECAN staff member in 2015, did a survey of industry and residents, and stop playing with the cord and pay attention. I'm listening to you, Jeff. Did a survey in the Bromley area of residents and of businesses. 83% said it affected them. The stench, the odour. 215, Becker Consultancy reported, and you should have read this, clauses 3.1, 3.3, 3.32, 3.4, 3.6, all mention the odour problem. And that was 215, and it had been open about 5-6 years. And 6.2, the bio filter upgrades. They were never done, they never have been done. We've got the old 1930s technology still in place. Then what about the 2004 Clean Air Act? Have any of you read that? I don't think so. And I think you should turn round and read it, because the staff won't read it. The 215 WorkSafe Act. Have you read that? No, you haven't. Because clauses 40.2
43.2F, 43.2D, and 47, which suggest to me that the plant should have been closed. It breaches government law. The 1991 Resource Management Act, breached daily for the past 14 years. Notice of non-compliance should have been given by ECAN, but they are useless, they are toothless, they don't want to do anything. That would mean, if convicted, it would have been a $600,000 fine and $10,000 per day for continuing the offence. So we've got 365 days times 14, over 5,000 times. $10,000, work that out. You've already spent over a $60-odd million on this plant with consultants. Simpson-Grierson document, the legal document between Living Earth, who conned the council, and this council was updated in 2015, and by Becker, but it's still the same. The clause 3.9.2, which clearly states no odour over the boundary. That has not and never been altered since day one. All right, but still happens. What about the ECAN and the CCC climate change statement? Some of you sit round here, greenies, and all about the climate change. This thing's pumping methane into the atmosphere like there's no tomorrow, like a herd of 6,000 dairy cows. But you don't want to know. You vote to keep it open. And then we come to the consents. Clause 10B, to operate under negative pressure. It fails. Bruce mentioned that. 27, discharge to air shall not cause odour or dust which is objectionable beyond the boundary of the site applicable on which the consent exercise and falls. Now we've had managers, 5 managers in 14 years. Mark Christensen, he saw it was hopeless and he moved on to Becker. Then we had Tim Joyce. He left St Andrews and went to the road tunnel, ticket toll, sold tickets, came to the council, and the next minute he's up the bloody top, a few years later, running the waste and water. Then he left. Well, we had Sue Winter and...
Just keep staff names just
yeah,
back a wee bit if you wouldn't mind, please.
Then we had Sue Winter and Tim Joyce. They told us to suck it up. Without using names, the lady who has left, she told us if we didn't like it, we could sell our houses and move on. Well, I move on at night in the summer because I've got to go and sleep in the lay-by up in Sumner and in New Brighton to get out of the bloody stench so I can sleep. But it doesn't bother you, does it? No. Then we had, following that, Tim Joyce was John Mackey, and he was moved on by this outfit. Then we had Helen. She's away on leave.
Jeffrey, just back it off a little bit,
all
please.
Right. And now the poison chalice has been handed on to a man from Parks and Reserves, the poor bugger. I sincerely hope that you vote to close this down today. Think of the people. It affects from 16 community hubs about 80-odd thousand people. And it's in 2 councillors' constituency area, and you vote to keep it going. Shame on you. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, we actually have one more. Doug Williams, please. Thank you.
Thank you for the extra time, sir.
Welcome, Doug.
Yeah, good morning. Do I have to push anything? Or?
Now, as long as those lights are green, you're in good shape.
No, like Doug Williamson's my name. I don't live in Bromley. I live in Apawa. But since early 2021, I've been trying to engage with the council because my brother and I have a solution to your problem. And so, from the way I see it, there's three problems. As these people here have come to talk about, excuse me, the smell, the flies, but most importantly, the perception. Now, at the moment, it doesn't really matter what you do, that perception will always be there. Now, that's the problem. But, so, I have a solution to that, and the only thing that we want, my brother and I, is some kind of protection for our idea. So what we bring to solve this problem, we will get the credit for. And for the last maybe more than a year, I've been trying to engage with the council, the administrative side of it, and it's just been so bad faith engagement. And it was only by luck that I realised this meeting was on today, that I've come and say there's two things that I've come to talk about, the solution and what we want in return, which is not unreasonable, and also the way that we've been stonewalled. And as you can see from these people, it's pretty important. Like something so important that they would bring little kids along to talk, and people that are sick, the council should be engaging with everybody, and at least in good faith. So that's basically what I've come to talk about, the fact that we have a solution, right? It's fractions of the cost that have been suggested, and basically nobody listens to us.
So you have tried to talk to factions of council, but
yeah, of course.
So you haven't. So I will get you in front of someone who knows a damn sight more about it than me.
Yeah, that's
is that all right?
Yeah, but
Okay.
the first thing we want, is just some kind of agreement that what we bring will belong to us, that it won't be just taken and we won't get any credit. Now, I'm not talking about money, I'm not talking about anything. I'm just talking about the fact we want the credit for what we produce.
Okay.
That's all we want. There's nothing to do with the science of it or anything else. And nobody will do that.
Okay,
So-
well, I will get you in front of the right people.
Yeah.
And I'll come along as well.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Tim?
G'day, how are you?
Yeah.
Hey, is it just for my, and you don't have to obviously any detail. Is it a product is it like a patent protection, or is it just?
No, but the problem is with a patent, everything's got to be innovative. But it's a lot of combinations of things, which I just don't want to go down the patent way. And so
it's hard to explain if you're in wanting protection to get.
No, I'll give you a good example is the fact that, I engaged with you about the flooding, and I go and finally I got to go to a meeting with the council, and there was an engineer and an English guy and a lovely lady that was a communication, and the engineer was just writing down flat out the solution, right? And before I went there, the council said they had no solution to the flooding apart from dredging and building bunds. And I explained in Tokyo and in Amsterdam some of the things that are being done, they store the water at high tide and then pump it out at low tide in Tokyo, and then lo and behold, afterwards they've built this one in Linwood, and I think, well, before I went there, they had no idea to do this, and now I go there. But hey, I don't mind that. I just want the credit for it. So that's what I'm talking about. And it's pretty hard to argue against these people, And so.
Okay. Pauline?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Are you talking about an interim temporary mitigation or a long-term solution?
Well, it's basically a long-term solution, but it can be moved. You know, it's not like major. Like the problem you've got there is you've built those curing houses, which are sort of bricks and mortar infrastructure, but you can't move it. So you've got like a white elephant there. Whereas what we can do is provide something that can be moved.
Okay.
And it you know, and can be set up somewhere else. And it will stop the smell, and it will stop the dust, and it will stop the flies. Whether it stops the perception, I can't say.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming in.
Yeah,
Very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Good on you.
Thank you.
Right, now we will have a cup of tea for 15 minutes before we get into, we have no petitions today, so after our break we will move into item 5, the interim curbside organics management options report. So we'll have 15 minutes to get our act together and see you soon.